tighten that as much as possible. Now we'll bring in the clock movement and just see how we are for depth here. Remember, we're looking to get the shank. Looking to get the shank of the that's the threaded shank of the clock movement all the way through. Yeah, so that's sticking out maybe 3 mil. So that should be plenty for our washer and our nut. I'll just test them out here and have a look. I'll tighten that later on with the pliers. So that's a good fit. Nice and neat, clean front on the clock, and easy access at the back there as well. So next up we'll take a look then at cutting out the male and female joints for the surrounding frame. Right, so we're on to the cutting out of the joints. So all you need is your tenon saw and maybe a little bit of chiseling on the female parts. But for the male, it's simply a matter of cutting down the cheek and cutting off the shoulder using your bench hook, just like this. So you stay on the X side of the line. You should be able to just about see the line left behind. If you cut on the lines, the joint will be too small. You can check every now and again if you're sawing straight. If you let go of your saw, it should just sit there perfectly still. We're sawing right down to the waistline here on both sides. Even a tiny little bit over is not the end of the world. That's our 2 cheek cuts. Put your bench hook in. And we will saw down the 2 shoulders. You can hold this in a vise if you find it a little bit more easier. So again, sawing on the X side of the line. The X side means you should always see a little bit of your pencil mark left over. And the other side. Okay, so that's your male tenon, and we then just cut and chisel female to suit that. So take a female piece, we're working on number 2 here at the moment. We'll take female piece number 2, get some sewing on. So this time we're sawing again on the X side of the line, but we're in the middle of the wood this time, so it's the right side here, left side here, all the way down to our waist. necessarily looking for the joint to go together first out of the box. A little bit of tightness is actually good, and we can chisel to a better fit. Okay, so we want to remove this like we have in previous videos. We have 12mm chisel here, which is ideal. And we just tap that down 2 or 3mm. Same on the back. Then that goes back into your vise again. This is a standard way of removing material from the female part of the joint. Just come in whatever depth we tap down and just pop it out. And we'll repeat that all the way through. You could use a coping saw as well. I just find this much neater and less finishing to do. So good sharp chisels, 3 nice taps. You can also remove it in the vise sideways like this. Just pop it off with your hands. It's not a very long process. That's almost all the way through now. Okay, so the last thing we want to do then is just clean off the bottom of that with a chisel. You can keep it level with the woodwork vise, which is a great help. And just make sure that the bottom of the female part is level. And we come in from both sides, halfway in from both sides. So next up we just want to do some work to fit the male and the female. Again, make sure you're working with the same numbers. This is number 2 going to number 2. We have the face edge facing up and the face side facing inwards. So I'm hoping that these will be a little bit tight on first fitting, which they are. It's a good sign. We don't want to force that in or bang it in with a chisel or with a mallet. So we'll take our time and do a little bit of chiseling on the cheeks of the male part of the joint. Get the widest chisel that you have. And we'll just clean that off. So you usually don't have to remove too much material. It's just taking off all the saw marks, which are probably preventing the joint from going together. You get better with this over time. clean our shoulders off here. We often use the term cheeks and shoulders. This is the cheek of the joint, and the shoulder then is on the end grain part. So we'll have a look and see how we're fitting here. Still a little bit tight. Remove a little bit more. So you repeat this process of cutting out the male and the female with your saw. And just chiseling them to get them to fit. So just continue with this one to get it fitting, and then we'll let you away there to try the other tree. Should have a bit more luck now this time. So probably would go together with a bit of force, but we don't force it. A little bit more off the male here. Probably played it a little bit too safe with the sawing. On this particular side here. So again, having your chisels really sharp here is key, very important. Okay, so we're starting to get some sort of fit there. You can see now I'm down about a third of the way. So we'll keep going at that until I get them all the way down, and I'll come back to you then for removing the waste. So we're almost there now with our last female joint. Just get that level up. So again, if you have your waistline level with the top of your vice here, you should get a lovely clean finish on the bottom. Especially with pine, because it pits so easily, and this stops it from getting lots of large pit holes in the bottom. Right, so just clear away some waste. Let's have a look. Number 3 there popping together nicely. So number 2. Reasonably tight. I think one of them is a little bit loose, but that's okay. Lovely click there. You want your joints to click together after a while. And number 4, number 1, I think 4 is a little bit loose. Bit of glue there will be fine. Number 1 clicking together nicely. So that's your basic clock frame there. And next up, we're going to get that glued up, leave it set for a few hours, and then we'll have a look at fitting in our frame here in the middle for the actual clock itself. So I suppose you could have it on your wall straight like that, or you could tilt it on your wall in a diamond fashion. I'm not quite sure. I think I'll go with the diamond look at this on the wall. So that will just affect where I'm going to position the hands and the markers for the major hours 12, 3, 6 and 9. So I'll get that glued up in a few minutes, that frame, and we'll come back to that later on. Actually, before we glue it, we should probably consider putting in our dowels and let gluing be our last thing that we do actually on this particular project. So we'll forget the gluing for the moment actually. I'll mark position for the dowels. They're already marked here on the front. So I'll just take the frame apart here. So all 4 of these will be the same. If you want to turn them up with the inside of the frame looking up towards you. And just mark the center of each one. So this will give a nice appearance of the clock actually floating in the frame. Just marking from the corner of one waistline to the other. It would be important to get this accurate, of course, as we're fitting dowels, and dowels can be tricky to fit if not marked out accurately. I've seen students make this clock before where they had to go with just 2 dowels holding in the clock face, which is fine because their accuracy in marking out these was not up to scratch. Okay, so we want to get those drilled up then. So as usual, we get a pilot bit. We don't want to drill all the way through. Maybe down 1.5 centimeters. Now we've got 6mm dowel to support the clock in the frame. So I'm going to drill. I usually use 0.5 millimeter less than the dowel. This will be a 5.5mm drill bit. And again, we want to drill down approximately 1.5 centimeters. Okay, so that's our 4 drill holes for our dowels. We need to do the same with the sides of the clock, so we'll get back into the vise here. Sure that's seated nice and level. Put our pilot holes in. We're going down about 1.5 centimeters. This one is not very clear, so we're just going to measure just to make sure we're on the right center spot here. So again, 5.5mm bit. Drilling down. Going down about 1.5 centimeters. seem to have a little bit of a twist in that drill bit, which I'll have to replace. Okay, the last 4 holes in the drill will be to mark our 12 o'clock, 3, 6 and 9 o'clock position. So we'll need to fit back in the clock movement for this part. So put your rubber washer on the back. Then your brass washer. And your nut. That nut can be tightened later on with a little vice grip. So we need to seat our hands and second hands so we can get the correct position for markers. So I'm going to put this in a diamond formation. So let's say that's midnight. Okay. So we can draw. I'm going to do this with a pencil, and I really don't want to mark the front of this one. You want to go across from the middle of that. So somewhere out here we'll have one hand. You do this as an X, of course, before I put on the clock movement. Okay, so just seat our hands back on there. Get into the interesting part now of putting it all together. All these pieces will have to be sanded. I was going to glue the frame, as I said, which would have been not the wisest thing. Okay, so let's say that's going to be the longest hand, so we can probably come in safely, say 2.5 centimeters on each one. So I'm just coming in from the very corner, 2.5 centimeters. I can mark that with a pen because I'm going to drill it anyway. So for these markers, I've got some thicker dowel, some 9mm dowel. I'm going to drill those and put them in. You can colour the ends of them if you like, or stain them with wood stain or marker. Okay, so we want to drill pilot holes there. We can use a couple of our pieces of wood to support this. So the desk is getting messier with a minute, which is good. Just means we're nearing the end, which is not good if you're enjoying it. Okay, so we want to drill, we can go all the way through with this hole, so we'll come in halfway from the front and half from the back to get a good finish. and gentle from the back. Okay, so we'll take out the clock movement now. Make sure that doesn't get damaged or get too much dust into it. So we'll have a lot of sanding to do on this one, but that looks pretty much ready to go. So we've got these dowel pegs to go in. We want them to stick up maybe 4 millimeters. So our wood is 15 and 4. I think if we cut them 2 centimeters each, we should be clear of the hands on the clock. So we'll just mark off 4 20s and we'll allow the thickness of the saw blade to look after getting us back down to 19 millimeters for each one. So they need to be cut in the bench hook, and also we're going to take the dowels for attaching the clock to the frame. I've marked each of these at 4.5 centimeters, 45 millimeters, and I'll cut those in the bench hook as well. So nice and gentle with the dowel. A little bit left over, never leave it on the floor. It's like a skating rink. Nice and gentle with these. Okay, so that's our 4 pieces of dowel. These won't be too tight now, we'll just tap them in just to get a look. We will of course be sanding everything up, so no panic on it. As I said, it would be nice if you colour the ends of these, even with colouring pencils dipped in water. Put a nice blue colour on them. So they'll be removed when we're going to sand the front, but they will be nice hour markers. So that's all the pieces. I'm just going to tidy the desk here now for final assembly, and we'll talk about how to finish it off then. Okay, so we're down to looking at fitting this together. Again, this will be a very loose and dry fit, no glue yet till we get everything in position. When we're happy with that, then we'll put it all together, get it glued up, and I'd advise probably sanding all the pieces individually before you glue it up, and see how we go from there. So I'm just going to put it together here, as I said, in dry fit. Try and get the camera in looking at that. And take it to wherever you want to sand it up, then put it back together with a little bit of glue on the joints. Okay. So first up, we're going to tap in our dowels here on the edge. They either go in together with hands, or you might need to tap them in. These are 4.5 centimeters long. Starting to look a little bit more complicated now. We take our frame, put it back together loosely. Put number 4 here. Yeah, 4 is our loose one, so that's going to need a nice bit of gluing and probably a little bit of filling as well. Number 1. Not as loose. Okay, and we'll need a little bit of glue. And we have number 2 and 3. 2 and 3 went together quite tightly. You can even see in the hour or so that I've been making this, this timber was in the shed outside, so it has actually dried out quite a lot even since starting to work on it. Never harms to have one good tight joint. Okay, so that's the frame there. We can take out one of the pieces. See, I have number 2 in back there. Remember to keep the holes facing inwards. Maybe that's why I didn't go there so easily. Okay, so we'll pop off number 4 here, and that allows us to get our frame in. So we'll have to fiddle with these a little bit to get them balanced and central. Looking for a 22mm gap all the way around the clock itself. Maybe just do 2 sides first. As you'll know from any woodwork project that has a lot of pieces and you're trying to glue it, assembly, especially clamping, can be pretty awkward. Okay, so I can see here I might need to take a little bit more off that dowel or just drill down the hole a little bit more. So drilling the hole will be easier. You just take your time with this fitting part. Okay, so that will allow us to get those in line. You could of course just leave in 2 dowels and have your clock been able to rotate and all that kind of thing. So lots of options as always with these projects. That'll be about right there. And try and get this side in. You can see this is going to be fun. So not so bad there. So again, when you're clamping up the outsides of the frame, you probably have glue in the holes here for the dowels, so that when the whole thing sets, the center of the clock will set in the middle as well. Okay, so number 4 then. I'm going to be glad I made this loose, so it's going to help. And hold it off quite a bit by the looks of it. So that's it roughly together. Now it's going to take a little bit of messing around with the positions of everything to get them perfectly centered. But that's the kind of look we're going for with the clock. Looks like it's floating in the middle of the frame, especially with the tin dowel. Yeah, but if that's glued up and clamped, everything there should be pretty good. Might have to look at moving the hole here over a fraction just to get that to sit nicely. So if you're pretty confident that the woodwork, that shouldn't be a problem. If you're new to woodwork, I'd say just go with 2 dowels to hold it. It's designed that way so it will still work that way. So I'll just put the back into the clock here as well. And kind of get a look at what it looks like when it's almost finished. Again, the clamping up of all the joints will get everything nice and square and tight for you. Definitely going to have to move that dowel hole a little bit, I think. So we'll put in the hour hands. These clock movements, the hands come with kind of a plastic layer on them so you can't damage them while you're fitting them and practicing with them. And you take that off basically when you're ready to use the clock. Also straighten out our little second hand here. So I'll just set that to 3 o'clock there and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's basically everything with the clock. Again, as I said, I'll spend a little bit more time here on number 4, just fitting that dowel. I'll head off now and get everything sanded up first, then get the waste cut off the part sticking out at the end of the joints and glue it all up. Again, as I said, you have the option of colouring in the end pieces here. And that's pretty much it. You're going to have a beautiful wall mounted modern looking clock. You can mount it, as we said, diamond wise or square. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. In the link below you'll see links to my eBay page where you can buy different kits for different videos we have on the site. We have a Facebook page there as well, just in the link below at Project Wood 2020. You can also join the Patreon group in the link below, and the Patreon group gets a special once a month video of a much more complicated project than the basic woodwork, and Patreon members also get an emailed list of all the parts in every project so they can purchase their own timber or purchase more expensive timbers and hardwood timbers. So please like, comment, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching. We'll be back soon with another project on Project Wood.